With us right now, Lloyd Thompson. Lloyd, you are the founder of VirtualDOO. I'm going to let you tell us what DOO stands for. Lloyd, it's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Josh. Yeah, so DOO, it stands for Director of Operations.
Oh, okay. Tell me more, because I think this is, when we think about earlier stage businesses, I think that this is probably one of the areas that is just so badly needed. And I think ends up being one of the biggest, violations that most of us make when we think about, what a founder should be doing, what a founder maybe should not be doing, especially if we're thinking, through like an E-Myth lens.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when someone starts their business, and this is, I guess, in the same vein as the E-Myth, they are the person who's thinking about the strategy, but they're also the person who's executing. I think in the language of the E-Myth, there's the manager and the delivery, the employee, or something like that. And so, but beyond a certain point, when they get to a certain number of employees, generally 5, they can run it themselves, that founder. But when they're getting 5 to 10, it gets a bit grey. 10 plus, they need that founder, that business owner, they need to get out of the day-to-day operation. Can't be working in their business. Yeah. And if they don't do that, then they just get stuck in the weeds. They can't focus on strategy, and they can't focus on sales or shaking the tree for new business. And so that's where this business has started. And my business is VirtualDOO, and we help busy online business owners with teams get out of their day-to-day operations so they have that time for passion, relationships, strategy, and shaking the tree for new business. And
tell me, go ahead. I'm sorry, Lloyd, keep going.
Yeah, so we provide a director of operations, and when I started this business, it was me. But when we provide a director of operations, and I think where we're unique is that it's a director of operations on a fractional basis, a fraction of the cost. So what does fractional mean? People might have heard of like a fractional marketer or a fractional CMO or a fractional CFO. So this is a fractional director of operations. So someone who's going to lead their team, oversee their operations, and drive process improvement.
Yeah. So if let's think about, we'll address, kind of what a DOO might do and so forth, but help me paint a vision for what you believe the ideal role of a founder should be if we're thinking about a company that's, 10 or more employees.
Yeah. That person should be really thinking about where they want to be taking their business, what deals they're going to be making, what relationships they're going to be forming. And quite often that kind of size company, the thing that founder is going to be doing is focusing on the sales and relationship. It's going to be a long time, that kind of size business, before they've got themselves out of being the front person of their business. So quite often there's that hat where that person is like what I would call a visionary. They're driving the strategy of the business, but then you've got someone who is the operator. And that's where, if they're doing both, if they're being the chief of operations, or as I call it, the director of operations, if they're doing both, then they can't focus on the strategy and they can't focus on the relationships because they're stuck in the weeds.
Yeah. Yeah. And, again, from a growth perspective, listen, to someone who feels, to the founders listening, and you might feel a little bit stuck. Can you maybe, Lloyd, offer some ideas for where you see founders kind of getting stuck, and again, how possibly bringing in operational leadership might just be the medicine that they need?
Yeah. So just a little backstory, like before I got into this business, I'd been in corporate running large remote teams. And I knew I wanted to do something a bit different. And I spoke to a business coach, and he said, well, with your skills, if you really want to work remotely, you could probably help some of my clients, like e-commerce or marketing agencies. These folks have got teams, and I think you might be able to help them. And so my first client, he referred me to an e-commerce business, global e-commerce business. And the founder was doing 16-hour days. and he was scattergunning the team with tasks. And he just felt like the emergency department, or that game like whack-a-mole, you know, you whack it and then it pops up over here, and you whack it, it pops up over there. And so the guy, the founder in this business, he's a very smart guy, and he's come up with amazing products. He ships this product globally. But he's so busy scattergunning the team, he doesn't know another way. That wasn't his background. Whereas, you know, when you look at someone like myself, I've come from corporate. I know how to structure and plan things. I know how to run a team. So one of the pain points we addressed there is, well, I came in and I said, look, let's plan things 10 days out at a time. So what are we going to do? What are we going to get everyone working on? Because before that, by scattergunning the team with tasks, they're being like context switched all the time, and it's really inefficient. And those people they're struggling because they're constantly being reprioritized. And because they're getting reprioritized, then it's actually really inefficient. So just having some kind of planning in there to say, this is what you're going to look at for the next 10 days, that was really helpful to that business owner, and was able to extract himself out of the weeds. And just other things like putting in feedback loops, so that when you have, let's say, a campaign, this is really typical in an e-commerce business, you can have a marketing campaign. When that event has run, how did that go? Did it go well? Great. What did we do that made it succeed? Okay, let's have a look at that. What didn't go so well? Let's have a feedback loop. And so by having an operator come in who's got the bandwidth to look at this, to look at the process improvement, we're able to constantly improve the process so that less and less time is being spent, and it's more productive, and there's more output out of it, you know, more and more successful campaigns. So the real pain there is the founders getting sucked into it, whereas they should be focusing on something else. They shouldn't be in the weeds of it all. It's time, ultimately.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and some of us get very lucky, I'd say, in terms of, you know, maybe connecting with the right team member who really is able to step up and provide that operational leadership. In my case, you know, I had a dear friend of mine, Elisa Nolan, who had been friends with for 20 years. She just happened to have the right skill set, and she just happened to be available to come join me.
Amazing.
And, you know, today she's our COO and does just a phenomenal job. But, you know, really, I think as I share my story, I want to acknowledge that the stars kind of aligned for me. And I am grateful every day that it worked out. I hear from a lot of leaders that, that they, you know, maybe organizationally, privately, they may say, well, you know, I've got a lot of frontline troops, but I just don't have enough lieutenants. Nor do I really feel like I've got the talent in-house to elevate to that level. Can you talk maybe about that challenge I'm speaking of?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these business owners are struggling to extract themselves out because they're in this role of deciding instead of delegating. And what I mean by that is they've got the team coming to them all the time and saying, oh, I need a decision on this. I need a decision on that. And by that founder enabling them and saying, okay, yeah, I'm answering your question. And it's reinforcing that behavior. And they don't necessarily know that the way to solve this problem is through coaching or giving that team an outcome that they should be focusing on, and actually coaching them to say, well, hey, you know, when you come to me with a challenge or a problem, I'd really like you to come with a solution as well. And then coaching them through that. So asking them the questions of how they came up with that solution that they had in their mind, that founder, so that person is able to start coming up with these solutions themselves. But that's really time consuming. Like if the founder's constantly having to coach people, it's really time consuming. And also they might not be it might not be immediately obvious to their team members. Like you immediately had an operator who was great. Like you had someone who immediately stepped into the role, knew how to handle this. If you were lucky and you had some team members that were like, yep, I can roll with it. I'm absolutely comfortable. I feel safe in this role. Then life would be a lot easier. And perhaps you don't need to bring in someone external to run the team. but quite often it doesn't happen that way. And the founder doesn't know how to get themselves out of making all the decisions for the team. They just can't see a way out of it. And so this is something that we can do, is bring in someone, even if it's just for a temporary time, like we're on a month-to-month basis, to put the rhythms in place for the business. So what do the rhythms look like that run the team? You know, a regular cadence of team meetings and daily huddles and things like that, and feedback loops. And once the systems are in place and the team are all working together and looking at dashboards and measurables, perhaps someone else can step in and run the team. And we've done that a few times, like trained the existing team to be able to replace us ultimately.
Yeah. Okay. So explain the process here and why, you know, kind of VirtualDOO might be a fit. So maybe kind of talk about like how you match someone up or how you do that work. Just logistically, you know, what is that kind of, I say, a kind of discovery and onboarding process?
Yeah. So it starts generally with an audit, unless someone's had a burning need and we've been referred and we can just come in and hit the ground running, which has happened a few times. But generally we start with like an organizational audit. So either myself or one of my team will go in, talk to the founder, understand what their challenges are, understand where they want to end up, talk to their team, and just have a look at their teams, how their team is set up and what their processes are and what their systems are. So we'll go and interview the team. And this takes about a month after we've been talking to the team members, having a really good look at their systems and processes. And at the end of that, we'll come back to them and deliver our findings and say, look, these are our findings in terms of how you could improve your systems. This is how we think you could structure your people if there is any changes. And then this is what we would recommend. And you can, from that point, that business is able to decide if they want to go ahead and make the changes themselves, or they're able to say, you know what, actually, we've now been in VirtualDOO, or DOO, have been in there for a month now. We have a really good idea about how they're set up. And we're in a good position to provide them with a quote of how much we think our month-to-month running costs are going to be to support that team. And so that's how we get going. And we generally have some staple rhythms that we'll run, like that director of operations will report to the founder or business owner or visionary, as we call them. And then they will take direction of what the priorities are. And then that director of operations that we've placed will then run the team. So they'll run the team meetings, integrate the heads of various teams and make sure that things are all running smoothly. And then look at measurables that run that business. Like, what are the reds and greens? Like, what are the sales numbers, marketing numbers, incidents, and so forth? And where there are things that are trending down or what I would say are reds, that's where we've identified the opportunities for improvement, which feed back into the priorities.
Lloyd, is there a certain, you kind of mentioned that level, maybe it's, 8 to 10 employees. When might a founder know, yeah, it's, or ask differently. So I was going to ask, when might a founder know, yeah, it's high time we take a look at this?
Yeah,
or
great.
A different way, who's kind of your ideal client?
Great question. If it's less than, and by the way, like, it's taken me a while to find our sweet spot, in doing this, but if it's less than a team of 5, then the founder might as well do it themselves. If it's 5 to 10, it's a bit gray in the sense of like they're feeling the pain, but they're not necessarily feeling it enough. We sit in the space of where that online business has about 10 to 30 staff, because they're in a space where they've probably not taken on a director of operations yet. They don't know what that role looks like. And so this is a great opportunity for try out the role with us. And they might have us in for, 6 months just to get the rhythms all running right, and then onboard another team member. But teams of 10 to 30 is our absolute sweet spot, and typically marketing agencies and e-commerce businesses. And that's the niche we found ourselves in now.
Lloyd, your website is virtualdoo.com. When somebody goes there, what would you recommend they do?
So actually I've got a book which you can find on Amazon if you like it in print or Kindle, but I'll give it away.
Look at
PDF.
that.
So here's my book. It's like a primer of what a director of operations will do to get things running like a well-oiled machine. So if you want to know what a DOO or director of operations actually does, or you want to do it yourself and get it running like a well-oiled machine, then you can go to my website, virtualdoo.com/book, and you can get the PDF for free.
And what was that? How do they get that? Now, I'm looking at, what I did, I clicked on VirtualDOO, or I went to virtualdoo.com, clicked on book, and you just punch in your email address and then download, start reading it right
now. Get the PDF. Get the PDF.
Wonderful.
Down it goes.
Well, great conversation. Again, Lloyd Thompson, you're the founder of VirtualDOO. Again, found on the web at virtualdoo.com. Click on book. Download 9 ways to leave your day-to-day operations. It's free, and realize your true vision. Lloyd, it's been great having you. Thank you so much for joining us.